My name is Philip Harrelson. I'd like to welcome you back again to the Barnabas study, and I'm working through a number of books that I think will be worthy additions to your library. And again, as you can see, I'm filled with a place, a study where that it is loaded with books. The books you see behind me, sermon books, commentaries, books that are divided up into the life of Jesus, life of Paul, Bible characters. Up in the upper part where you can't see some of the more critical commentaries, New International Commentary on the Old Testament, New International Commentary on the New Testament, Expositors, Bible commentaries up to my upper right over here, Preaching the Word series, John MacArthur, various other commentaries located over on this side of me. Over on this side of me, all spiritual warfare, revival, end times, prophecy, various doctrines, and then down on the bottom shelf, I've got a lot of systematic theologies and various things like that. But those are all kind of, again, those are kind of the more, I guess, in-depth tools. My biographies start up here on this second shelf and starts over with a compilation. Warren Wiersbe, Giant Steps, Walking with the Giants, Living with the Giants, Listening to the Giants, and then I've got Roberts Lairdon's book, God's Generals. And then I've got John Piper's 3-volume set where he's done various deals on endurance, on suffering, Fox's Book of Martyrs, Jesus Freaks, Company of Great Preachers, and then we're starting with that. Then I've started with Bonhoeffer, Andrew Bonaire, books like that, and then moving all the way over on that second shelf, and then picking back up over here on this third shelf are nothing but biographies. One of those more recent biographies that I've added to that is a book that is written by a man by the name of Winn Collier. And Winn Collier wrote a book called A Burning in My Bones, and it's the story or the biography of Eugene Peterson. Eugene Peterson is probably more famously known for his, some people say, well, it's not a translation. Well, translation, paraphrase. And again, I get it. I certainly wouldn't use the message for doctrinal standpoints or various things like that. But I will say that over the years that the message has really kind of been an eye-opening deal for me. It's kind of helped me to read Scripture in a different way. And I can remember when I was still working at the hospital, that's when Psalms and Proverbs and wisdom literature came out in a paperback or maybe a hardbound volume. And I bought that one, and then each volume that came along, I would buy those. And then finally, whenever they put it all together, whenever he had completely finished it, I put that all together. I've also got a series of his books. I've got all his books together, and all of Eugene Peterson's stuff is right over here on the bottom shelf. 5 Smooth Stones for Pastoral Ministry, Vocational Holiness, various things like that. So Eugene Peterson over the years has been quite a blessing and encouragement to me. I did know, I've read his book, The Pastor, which is his autobiography, and then Winn Collier wrote the biography. And Eugene Peterson did have a spirit-filled background. He grew up in, I think it was in Bozeman, Montana, up in that area. And his parents were very deeply immersed in the assemblies of God. And so he grew up knowing what it was like to be around people that spoke in tongues, gave prophetic utterances, various things like that. So that was really kind of an interesting deal. And then whenever he started moving kind of toward the area of seminary, he ended up in New York City. And he was with some of the guys that we look at now a little askew. George Buttrick, he was there with him. He was there also with Harry Emerson Fosdick, and these books talk about some of his interaction that he had with those men, and started kind of moving him along. Of course, he became at that time a Presbyterian, and some of the insights and things that you read about, just the challenges of church growth, challenges of trying to help people to get out of difficult situations. That's what this book is about. And again, obviously, I would just say that it's just like with every book I read. That is even some of the books that's put out by some of the guys that's in my organization. I don't agree with everything they write. And I'm certain that if I was to have, in which people do have access to some of my Bible studies and various sermon notes, I'm certain that they don't agree with everything that I have written. But again, I do believe the matter of people that you ought to read and you ought to stretch your mind. It is a gift to be able to sit down and to read a book and to work through that book and then kind of just think through it and let that book guide and direct what the Lord would use that author that wrote that. And Winn Collier spends a good amount of time talking about how early morning, and I read this and I was a little convicted whenever I read about Eugene Peterson getting up early in the morning, and before his family, 5 o'clock in the morning, he would be up reading his Bible, and he would read it in the original languages, Hebrew and Greek. And then would sit there, and there would be times where he'd just be sitting in his chair just quietly praying. I thought, you know what, that probably should be something that I need to consider and maybe add to some of the practices that I have in my own life. He talks about the matter, and again, I marked this book up, highlighted it, various other deals, but again, the other thing he gets into, he talks about the matter of the message, and about how that he came about translating that and working it for. And again, this is what most people are not aware of, is that the message never really was intended for publication. He just would write it and then he'd pass it out to the folks at his church. And so what happened was whenever they started reading it, they decided that they wanted it to maybe be considered for publication. And so he moved in that direction, and some of those matters are addressed whenever this biography starts talking about that. But again, I would commend this book to you, and kind of just maybe to stretch you. And again, if you read leadership books, you know that you read those books and you pull things from them. Some of those things you use, some of those things you don't use the same way with biography. And so again, this is another book that I would recommend that you add to your personal library. So anyways, thanks for stopping by. The Lord bless you, and until next time, we'll see you later.